This is my first virtual podcast focusing on the workshop, the basics of astrological magic, and the talismans that we use in astrological magic on a daily basis in magic. In this workshop, we'll be covering the basics of astrological magic with a focus on discussing what is astrology, the ancient zodiac signs from Mesopotamia. We are also looking at the star charts of Babylon as they were used even today when focusing on working with their influences in medieval magic and talismans, and how, according to the Babylonian, the signs were in the wheel prior to today's wheel layout. We will also be discussing the zodiac signs' colors, numbers associated along with their virtues, spirits, and intelligences that rule them when working directly with a specific planet and seal. Finally, we'll be looking at how we calculate the magic we cast by looking at the Witches Timepiece and planetary hours, lower magic, and the days of the week and the best hours to cast magic. It's very important to have basic knowledge and understanding of the celestial system prior to casting any magic. Magic is from those realms of the invisible, and we do our work. We call on the spirits, intelligence, and the gods and goddesses, which are directly above us as the planets that move throughout the heavens. When we do our work, we are invoking the very nature of the universe at the mental level. And if you do not know what you're doing, I think that says it all. As it is below, it is so above. As it is above, it is so below is an ancient maxim shared by Aramis Trismegistus, and it focuses on that everything that is in the heavens is on the earth, and everything that is on the earth is in the heavens. And that's something that we as magicians, witches, shamans, astrologers focus on a daily basis. It is the core of who we are, where we come from, and what we create and manifest throughout the universe. When we talk about magic and astrology, we're talking about the core of all magic. When we're talking about the core is the basis of everything. We use what is called the Witches Timepiece in our magic, and that is based on astrology, that's based on astronomy, that's based on the constellations and the stars and where they sit inside the heavens. And that is very important when it comes to casting magic. We have the hour of the sun, we have Venus, Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars. Those are all very important factors when you're looking at the magic you're casting. The sun is considered a celestial, the moon considered a luminary, and then you have the 5 other planets, and all of these play an extremely important role into how we do our magic and why and when we do our magic. Astrology dates back before humanity existed on this earth, and it was the oldest form of divination and still is the oldest form of divination. It is one of the hardest systems to understand and learn because it is so ancient, and it has been changed and modernized over the many centuries. When looking at astrology from the ancients dating back to the Sumerians, Egyptians, Renaissance era, the one thing in which was observed prior to building any homes, cities, getting married, the birth of a child, the sex of a child, and much more was by reading the stars and how they align to one another. This is very relevant inside one's native chart and also in their annual chart, which predicts many things from the year to come. There are many planets that what we call in modern astrology as well as traditional, which is the system I practice, malefic or benefic. The malefic are going to be the more negative energy of the planets. And in that case, there can be where there are going to be extreme obstacles in one's life, and or the benefic being where everything will come very easy to people. Astrology is utilized by the ancients, also included what today is known as orrery. Now, orrery I am not fluent in, but am working at that, but that is very similar to the tarot and the psychic readings that we do as witches. It's asking a single question and then casting a chart from the position of the actual reader, astrologer, and them calculating from that question, from their location, and what the answer will be, determining on where the planets sit. And your question also will vary on to which houses are associated to. For example, if you're wanting to look at something that deals more with survival, the home, travels, you would look at the 1st, the 7th, and the 10th house, because those are the strongest. Your 1st house is focusing on the things that are going to be part of your life, the structure, your security. The 7th house deals with partnerships, be it business or in love. The 10th house deals with careers, with everything that is going to be the solid foundation in what you are. And that's a great deal of orrery, but that's also a part of many things that we do in our magic. The answering of a single question is what we call orrery. Predictions of weather systems, medical ailments, through the reading of what's detriment or moon placements, will they or will they not recover, is also a form of traditional astrology, what is called as medical astrology or mundane astrology. There are many areas in the traditional systems that many different astrologers did work with. All of these things are read in astrology as according to the placements of planets in one's native chart, and also on a global level on any given day, place, and time. The planets set in motion what we are to experience in our lifetime and what we must endure, be it malefic or benefic. This also does affect the world as a whole as well, not just us as individuals. Now, in the ancient times, the chart was set up very different than what we know it today. The signs of the zodiac were the names of the Babylonian, for example, on the Mesopotamian calendar, and the house placements were very different than they are today. The names of the signs are, in the Babylonian and the Mesopotamian, Guana, heavenly bull, which was the Taurus; Mashtaba, twins, Gemini; Dub, pincers, Tongo, Cancer; Urgula, lion, Leo; Absin, his father was Sin; the maiden Virgo, Ziba, Ziba-Anna; heavenly fate, the scales of Libra, Gertab, which with claws and cuts; Scorpio, Pabil, defender; the archer, Sagittarius; Shu, Hurmish, Mash; goatfish, Capricorn, Gu; Lord of the waters, the water barrier, Aquarius; Sema, fishes, Pisces; Kumal, field dweller, the ram, the sign of Aries, was being the last, not the first, according to the Mesopotamian calendar. Now, as we see the chart today, Aries rules the 1st, Taurus the 2nd, Gemini the 3rd, Cancer the 4th, Leo the 5th, Virgo the 6th, Libra the 7th, Scorpio the 8th, Sagittarius the 9th, Capricorn the 10th, Aquarius the 11th, Pisces the 12th. And that is how the chart appears today. Now, when we look at the outer planets, this is something that is focused more on in modern astrology as opposed to traditional astrology. Because yes, while the planets were in the heavens at that time, they were not visible to the astrologers or the astronomers, so they were not initially conditioned into how a chart was read back then. The characteristics, though, of Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune are very similar to the traditional planets. Mars of the night, because the sign of Scorpio is the night side of Mars. Saturn in the night is the night side of Uranus or Aquarius. And Jupiter is the night side of Neptune. These are all characteristics that match Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune exactly when you look at the night faces of each of these planets, ruled by Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. It's really important to always remember magic is best used to better people's lives. The intentional destruction of someone, and not for the intentional destruction of someone or their lives. This is considered darker magic, and if you're to do this, then you will reap what you sow. There is a lot of people out there who do not use magic responsibly, and it is not justified when they do so. And for this, you can create a great deal of harm to yourself. You have to know what you're doing and when you're doing it, and this is also why the planets have a very impactful manifestation on what you do. Yet if you're using this magic to protect yourself, destroy another person's magic, deflect it back to somebody who's trying to hurt somebody, and you're justified, that's used against you or someone you love, then you may so cast against another. But you have to make sure that you are justified and that you're validated in doing this before you actually do it. Now, a note that is very interesting, which many people don't know, in ancient Rome, feast days, marriages, and any event that had any greater significance would be according to a specific day in the year and within a certain time frame from spring to the September 21st, the Mabon, or the autumn equinox. Marriages were considered lucky in June, but not in February and May. The reason why not in May, because May in the ancient times is also focused on the Feast of the Dead, from the 1st to the 15th, the time of the Lumeria, when we do honor the dead. So in this, it was not a wise time to marry. Now we're going to be looking at the ancient zodiac wheel, the ancient Babylonian zodiac wheel. Now, in the ancient times of the planetary theory, and this is according to Persian zodiac and the Babylonian, Gemini would have been what was the first house above the heavens, what we would know today as the 9th house. Taurus in the 2nd house, what we would have known today as the 8th house for Scorpio, and so on. Aries in the 3rd, Pisces in the 4th, Sag in the 7th, Scorpio in the 8th, and so on. However, in the Babylonian and the Mesopotamian calendar, you have Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo all above the heavens. Virgo's original home prior to the change of the charts was in the 12th house. Its original color was black, and the reason being Virgo is ruled by Mercury, but Virgo is the night side of Mercury's energy, Mercury being the only god who can travel between the heavens and not be seen and without any harm to come to himself, because he's so quick that he cannot be seen when he enters into the underworld realm. Mercury is also called the psychopomp. He is the one who carries the dead over to the other side. So this makes a lot of sense. And then when you're looking at the below heavens, we're focusing on the planets where material gain and success focus a greater deal. You've got Libra, which would be in what we know as today's 1st house, then Scorpio 2nd, Sagittarius 3rd, Virgo 4th, Capricorn 4th, Aquarius 5th, and Pisces 7th. Now all of these houses, you have to understand, Sagittarius focuses on financial gain, fortune, gambling, justice, the legal system. You have Scorpio, very energetic, of the earth. And if you look at his true nature, the Scorpio is comfortable in the desert zone. So you're focusing that on earth. Capricorn, very industrious energy of a Capricorn. They focus on building of things that come from the earth. These are all things that are below the heavens. So this makes a lot of sense why the houses were done like this back in the ancient times, though they are no longer read this way. The Persian zodiac describes the most ancient, and is described in the most ancient book, the Zend-Avesta. There were thus the name and order of the signs is what they were called back then. The lamb, the bull, the twins, the crab, the lion, the ear of corn, the balance, the scorpion, the bow, the goat, and the fishes. The bow being Sagittarius, the bull, Taurus, the twins, Gemini, the crab, Capricorn, the lion, Leo, the ear of corn would have been Libra, the balance, Libra, the corn, Virgo, the scorpion, the Scorpio, the goat and the fishes, Aquarius, and Capricorn, of course. So it's interesting to see how astrology has changed so much, but yet how we in traditional astrology really go back to how it used to be. Now we're going to talk about the signs and the colors and the numbers that are focused on the zodiac signs. In the Babylonian times, we are first going to look at how they considered the houses as well as the signs, because there are many planets that rule dually to the signs. In the Babylonian times, we have Nebo, which is ruled by the number 8, Mercury, Gemini and Virgo, Gemini being of the day, Virgo being of the night. The trickster, but the true essence of his trickster is simply now that, because when people come to learn certain things, does he trick those who are of a pure heart, or does he trick those that are of a malefic heart who wish to gain in order to use for their own self-interest? Then we have Ishtar, the number 7, associated to the planet Venus, that of Taurus and Libra, Taurus being the day sign, Libra being of the night. Nergal, number 5, associated to Mars, Aries and Scorpio, Aries being of the day, Scorpio being of the night. Marduk, the number 4, Jupiter, Sagittarian and Pisces, Sagittarius day, Pisces by night. Nim, the number 3, Saturn, Capricorn, Aquarius, Capricorn day, Aquarius night. Then we have Luna, the luminary, which is associated to Sin and Cancer in the nighttime, Sol, which is Anu An, and the sign of Leo of the daytime. Now, as I mentioned earlier the colors did vary from the ancient times as what they do today. The colors attributed to the signs and the planets. Saturn is now to black, as to previously that would have been Virgo to black. Saturn can also be associated to brown because you're dealing with Earth, so it's all of the Earth colors, the dark greens, the blacks, the browns. Jupiter to the color of indigo blue. He can also be associated to that of purple, the deepest purple. Mars to the color of red, Sun to the colors of yellows, reds, oranges. Venus to the colors green, reds, pinks, rose colors, those colors of love and earth. Mercury is to the colors of orange and lavender. But then again, he also likes the yellows, the oranges. He is very multifaceted. Then you're looking at the color of the moon. Its original color for talisman use is purple. In magic, it is silver. The numbers next to the planets, the planets is associated when we look at the magic in which we use to create the Kameas, which are the magic squares. That goes back to Kabbalistic magic. You can find that also in Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy and magic, where all of that magic is coincided. Many people, when you look at her today in the time clock, the numbers that are associated to those are the exact numbers that are of those in the Kameas. When you create a Jupiter Kamea, you have 4 squares down, 4 squares across. That's why the number 4. Saturn the same way, 3 squares down, 3 squares across. And this is so and so throughout the various seals that are used in magic. This is where the talismans come into play. And many of this is created when you start looking at the Picatrix. You focus on the actual creation of the talismans when the planets are in their best and most exalted position. For example, right now we have Jupiter inside Cancer. This is his exalted position. So it is best to do talismans for him when he is either in the rising or in the ascending on his day and his hour, but he cannot be opposing the moon, or he cannot be combust to any other planet. So the talismans are very tricky when you're creating them, because you have to ensure that your luminaries and the other planets are not in direct conflict or opposing or of any malefic energy when you're creating these. There are many invocations that are brought out in the Picatrix, the Orphic hymns. There are many aspects to the talismans and astrological magic. Many prayers and the invocations of the gods and goddesses are invoked to create the energy of the planets and bring that energy into the talismans as well. And these have to be done at specific hours of the day. You can't just say, oh, okay, today's Thursday, so I'm going to create a Jupiter talisman. If Jupiter is opposing the moon, or he is combust the moon, that talisman would have detrimental effect on what you were initially creating it for. Say you wanted to bring more fortune into your life. And then Jupiter is, for example, opposing Saturn, which Saturn right now is inside Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. He's also in retrogradation, so that makes his energy slow moving, as well as what we call in term, which brings out Saturn's most malefic, nastiest energy, because he is with Scorpio. Scorpio is Mars. Mars and Saturn are natural enemies, as well as Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars are all natural enemies. So in that, you would basically be taking away everything you have created for yourself by creating that talisman on that day and time. Now within that, we have there's many faces. Now this section is very detailed, so I'm not going to go into extreme coverage on it. But when you're talking about the faces, every sign has what we call the decans. And there's 0 to 10 is the first decan or face, 11 to 20 is the second, and 21 to 30 is the third decan or face of each sign. Each sign has different aspects to themselves depending on the dates within where you were born. And this is prevalent in creating talismans. This is also prevalent when you are looking at somebody's birthday and you're looking at the actual face that they were born in. You go to that image, and that's the image in which manifests for them. This is going to be what would be a good image if their sign, for instance, is in a good position to create an image talisman, to create this image on beeswax, on metal, on paper, on a stone, anything that is associated to that sign, to that planet, when the casting and the creation is there. Let's take an example, for instance. Let's look at Mars. Let's see. Let us look at Cancer, because right now we are in the sign of Cancer. So, you're looking at the nature of a moon, a form of a young virgin, adorned with fine clothes and having a crown on her head. It giveth acuteness of senses, subtlety of wit, and the love of men. Now this is the nature of the first face of Cancer. Now this is going to be anybody born from the 22nd of June, and that's at her 0 degree to the 10th degree. That can be anywhere from the 27th to 28th of June. Then you're looking at the nature of Mars. which is the second face. A man clothed in comely apparel, or a man and woman sitting at the table, playing. It bestoweth riches, mirth, gladness, and the love of women. The third face is going to typically be from the 15th, anywhere from the 12th to the last day of the sign of Cancer, is the nature of Jupiter, a man, a hunter, in his lance and horn, bringing out dogs for a hunt. The signification of this is the contention of men, the pursuing of those who fly, the hunting and possessing of things by arms and brawls. These are all different energies of the same sign within a different face depending on when they're born. This is also what we look at when we create the talisman. Say, for instance, we are creating a Cancer talisman. Of course, you want Cancer to be in the moon sign. You also want it to be inside its own face at the time. And then you would create on that talisman the exact image, a man clothed in comely apparel, or a man and a woman sitting at the table playing, and it bestoweth riches, mirth, gladness, and the love of women. This is the image you would actually engrave onto your talisman to manifest that energy of riches and myrrh and gladness and love of women to you. So there are many aspects when you look at this from a deeper point of view. And then let's look at Pisces, for example. The first face of Pisces, if you were to create a Jupiter talisman inside the sign of Pisces. Now, because Jupiter's in his own sign, this is a good position for him. Okay, let's say, for instance, we're going to go with the first face of Jupiter. This is going to be in the first sign, the first position of the Pisces sign, which is going to be from your 21st, 22nd of February to 27, 28. And this is going to be a man carrying burdens on his shoulders and well clothed. It has his signification in journeys, change of place, and in carefulness of getting wealth and clothes. This is going to be a person who is definitely going to be a healer, someone who's going to carry the burdens for you, take them away from you, and cleanse you. He's going to give great signification as to the journeys that you must go on. A person who likes to change places all the time, not somebody who likes to stay in one place at any one time. Careful about getting wealth and his clothes, but then also careful about keeping that wealth that he creates for himself. Now, we're going to come to the most important part of any magic that we do, and this is the timepiece. And this is timing of your magic. When we look at the nature of the face of the sign and degree in which the sun or moon is in, many times we look only at the phase and the ruling energy of the moon before we cast our magic. That is not the only part that you need to really be looking at. You must also look at the ruling energy of the solar and the sun, and that it has a great effect on the magic that we cast. Say, for instance, the sun is in Cancer. That's not a strong place for the sun because Cancer is naturally ruled by the moon and the lunar energy. So one has to be careful where the sun sits. The sun is highest exalted inside Aries from the 1st to, I believe, the 6th of April. And then inside his own sign, Leo, as well. But we're going to look at Gemini in this case. And in this case, we're going to look at the nature where Gemini is that of Jupiter, and which rules the first face of the decan of Gemini. Then we have Mars, which rules the second face or decan, and the sun that rules the last and the third face of the Gemini sign. Now this is giving not only the nature of Mercury to the sun, but it's also giving the nature of Mars and Jupiter as well. So you need to be looking at that when you are casting your magic and when you're looking at your timepiece. The timepiece is extremely important when you're looking at that. Second phase people are considered rebellious natures. And people who don't conform to society, what's expected. Yet in magic, one would use this to have their enemy reveal themselves by their own tongue, by speaking of what they themselves are doing. This you would use as a mirror magic, as a truth magic. So it could be used in this case because the planet Mercury rules Gemini. And with the nature of Mars, which is seen as the creator of wars, but also an victor of wars. Mercury is the communicator. He's the bringer of truth and justice. And Mars is being that of the energy of war, enemies, destroying of enemies. It would also make sense to use this in doing magic to bring the truth from your enemies of his own mouth. Now this we would do on a mercurial day in the hour of Mars. However, we could also do this on a Mars day in a mercurial hour. It would work either way. Now, if you're looking at the lower level of magic, you do your magic based on an 8-hour span. So say you're going to be doing this magic on the Mars energy on a mercurial day. So you would begin your magic at the hours of 1 a.m., 8 a.m., 3 p.m., or 10 p.m. These are being the hours of Mercury on a Wednesday. Now, if you want to use the mercurial day and focus on the hours of Mars, then you would look at the 5 a.m. hour, the 12 p.m., the 7 p.m. hour. And these are going to be the hours specific for Mars on a Wednesday. And this is how you would do your magic. This is very important. Now, as I can't show the display that I have here, I will make the some of the images and some of this information available via the website so that you can actually see the planetary clock or the Witches Timepiece and how we use it and how it looks. Now, we have it as where the sun is on the top, then you have Venus just to your left, and then Mercury, and then the moon, and then being the moon down below the heavens. And then you have Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars making a circular formation. The sun deals with healing energy of Apollo, the number 1, the yellow colors. Then you've got Venus, greens and roses, love, tradition, things of the home, sexual interests, anything that deals with the love of a man or the love of a woman. Mercury, you're dealing with life, death. You're dealing with medicine, you're dealing with song, you're dealing with travels, you're dealing with communication, scribes, thievery, you're dealing with all of the energies within that. Then your moon, you're dealing with the psychic energies, emotions, feelings, those things that cannot be explained, the water element as well as the air element, because you've got the flowy energy of water inside air as well as air inside water. Then you're dealing with Saturn, death, harvesting, agriculture, husbandry, all those things that are of the earth and material. Then you've got Jupiter. You're dealing with success, gain, fortune, the law, all things good luck. And you've got Mars, victory over enemies, destruction of enemies. There are so many facets to how the Witches Timepiece works, and when you use it right, it can create some amazing energy. Now, the origin of the solar planetary clock dates back to the time of the Babylonians, and then was later brought and used by those in the Jewish Kabbalah. It's also been used in the Chaldean magic and sorcery as well. Now, there is the form that is shown inside Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, where he actually has the planetary clock with Saturn at the top. This is not a particular position in which we, within my tradition, follow. We follow the solar planetary clock. Now, when we're looking at the spirits, the angels and intelligences, we're going to start with the sun. The sun is Raphael, Najil, and Seminil. Venus, Haniel, Hagel, and Nogul. Mercury, Michael, Tiriel, and Chohabiel. The moon, Gabriel, Elamiel, and Lemanuel. Saturn, Zaphakiel, Agiel, and Sabathiel. Jupiter, Zadkiel, Sophiel, and Zadkiel, with 2 different spellings. And lastly, Mars, Chamiel, Graphiel, and Modniel. Now, the sources for these come from very ancient sources, which I will include also on my website with the link that you can go with the page number and all of that information. I will also be including on my website the image of the chart in which we use to calculate our times for our Witches Timepiece. Now, also in the ancient magic days and hours, there are times within the day that you do and don't do magic, and certain magic that you do and don't do. Now, this is also very important to know, because if you're doing magic and you're in an hour when you shouldn't be doing it for a specific reason, then your magic is going to backfire. Now, based on a 30-day calendar, and this is starting on the first day of the month, and this can be altered because now we've got the calendars with 31 and 28 days. So you would just carry, if there were 31 days in the month, you would bring it up to the first. Now we're looking at the first day of the month. You would do your magic is best done at dawn. Now this is going to be as the sun is coming above the horizon. And your second day of the month, your magic is going to be best cast at noon. The third day, you don't do that. Now these are based on the days of the month, not the hours. The fourth day of the month, you would do your magic at dawn, the same as the fifth. 6th you wouldn't do. 7th day of the month at noon, and so on. This is how it progresses throughout the day. The 8th day, you can do your magic throughout the entire day, as well as the 10th, the 12th, the 13th. This chart, too, I will also include. And this information does come from the Greek magical papyri in translation. And this is a great source of magic and spell casting that we use within the old religion. Now, lastly, we're going to be coming to the candles that are used within astrological magic, the colors, and what those colors are for. One of the most important tools in our magic is a candle. The candle represents the body, the physical body. The wick represents the candle represents the body, the wick, and the flame. Everything deals with that. And when you're lighting that candle, the wick of that candle, you are lighting the energy from yourself into that candle to manifest the magic that you want. You are consecrating that energy to the magic with the hands. With the energy from your hands, that energy comes from your heart. And depending on the color of candle that you use is going to depend on the type of magic in which you're using. For white, you can use for any type of magic because it is a multifaceted. It can change color by adding a color to it. So there are many assets to that. You can use white for anything. If you don't have a black candle and you're focusing on something to neutralize or destroy your enemy, use that white candle and you can impress that energy into that white candle. Typically, you're dealing with the colors will focus on specific magic. White, for example, is of water and the moon, but white can also be air. It is of the Mother Goddess. It's pure, it's balance, it's blessings, it's healing, and it's charity. You engrave your intentions and the names into the candles when you want to do a specific type of magic for a specific individual. And then you're going to want to use that candle for that person and that person only, because it is the candle you have put your energy into for that one person. Brown candle is going to be earth magic, animal magic, grounding, communicating with the earthly elements. Then you've got orange, that's fire magic, love, sexuality, justice, truth, healing, solar. The candle of Apollo, Ra, and Michael, but it can also be used for magic from Hecate when you are focusing on justice and truth as well. Then you've got your pink candle, that's Aphrodite, Venus, Yamaya. Yamaya is also blue, and you're dealing with romance, balancing a romance, joining of two hearts together. Then you have yellow, this is the magic of air, clarity, communication, writing, Mercury, Apollo, Thoth. It's the color of astrology, of healing, of lifting one's spirits. There are many aspects to the different colors that you use. Now also, when we look at the astrology and the talismans, we also look at the fixed stars of Hermes. These are very important because within the actual reading of a native chart, you can look at these planets and seeing the stars and seeing which planet they were with will bring a very specific energy and nature to that person and their life and things that they will encounter. You can also do this in creating talismans, and these are called fixed star talismans, and these are calculated in the same manner as you would a planetary talisman, but these are going to be harder to calculate because they're at a specific point within the constellations, and those talismans of these fixed stars can only be created when they are at that exact location. And of course, again, without opposing, without combust energy, without being in cosmy, depending on the planets that they're associated with, and as well, just like we would in a planetary one. For example, we will use a very common talisman that is created from the fixed stars is the talisman of Algol. Now that's the head of Medusa. That's a protector from the black arts. It's a protector from black magic, from hexing, from cursing. It can protect anybody from envy, from jealousy, but it can also destroy somebody because that energy of that talisman is so magnifying and intense that it literally scares people when they see that image. And anyone who is of ill intent will turn and run. However, if you have Algol in your chart, in your own birth chart, and it's in a very malefic position, this would not be the best talisman at all for you to have. You want to look at your planets, your stars in your chart, if you want a personal talisman, and you create it to your most benefit, to the strongest energy that is in your chart that gives you the best of all things inside your chart, and you would work with that type of a talisman. There are many, many things that go into this. Since we were speaking of Algol, let us look at the herbs and stones that you would use to create that. Algol, you would use the darker mugwort, hellebore, and such things when you were doing a self-fumigation of that chart. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this virtual workshop. I know it was intended initially for participants to be involved in, but being the 4th of July weekend, I decided to just present this and give it as a gift from myself to you. And I would just like to put some final words in, and I will definitely be putting more information up on my website so that anybody who is interested may go and review it. I will be putting the planetary witch timepiece images, the charts of the time clocks, the fixed stars that are of Aramis that we use with, and I will be putting up a PDF of the actual pamphlet that I created for this workshop originally. I would have loved to include this on the screen for you to see today, but sadly with the Google Hangouts, I am not familiar with that format yet, so at some point in time, we will go and move forward with that. However, my last words to you as a high priestess, a reverend, a witch, and a traditional astrologer, and just somebody who is a priestess of the ancient ways. Just remember that astrology dates back before humanity. It is the oldest form of divination. In the ancient times, they used astrology and astronomy for predicting events, typhoons, all types of weather events, as well as for building up cities in the sacred temples. It was sacred to the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Arabs. This is one of the oldest and most difficult forms of divination that is used today, and it was even more so back then because it was the stars that they used for everything. Today, only a small few people use this system, and even a smaller group of us use the traditional system. And this all comes from the Sumerians, the Babylonians, and the Egyptians. The Egyptians created more of the solar form of the magic as opposed to the lunar. It is the core of the teachings which are passed down to humanity from Aramis, though the Egyptian god of astrology, astronomy, the scribes, the lunar, and solar of it being the core of alchemy and magic. All of these things are of the three realms in which are taught in the Hermetic and the Western mysteries. To have to use astrology and to have a great understanding of what your fate is in life and how you can create your own destiny. Because there is a saying that your fate is created for you by the planets and where they sit when you are born. However, you yourself create your own destiny by the actions you take to evolve and grow from the placements within your native chart. Yes, they are there, but you can overcome those energies by learning to understand them and find a balance within them. The planets are aligned in a very specific way when we're born, and no two people have the same alignment. If they do, it is extremely rare. To know how to work with and understand the gods, the creators of humanity, it comes from the base and manifests as we use our minds to create something fantastic from the use of our visualizations. This is how we overcome and how we evolve and how we can create something greater from just something that is so base in nature. Myself, I've been personally fascinated with the planets my entire life. Ever since I was a child, I always loved looking up into the stars and the universe and always knowing that there was something greater up there. Even the ETs and the extraterrestrial and the UFOs, I've always known that they were there. As I got older, I began to go deeper into really understanding the planets and how they really affected people by just watching people and seeing how they reacted during certain events or planetary positions. And it got greater when I was in Puerto Rico because I saw a lot of interesting energy from people. So I decided to really take a more in-depth look at what I have always loved, the stars. As a practicing old religionist, which is in my blood, it's a very heritage line that it comes from very old, comes from my ancestors before me. And from this, I am the spiritual advisor and a traditional astrologer. I am a psychic. I am here to help you find your way. So take the time to learn about the planets, learn about your chart, understand it, because you will find some amazing wisdom and understanding of your own self within this. When you look at yourself, truly look at yourself in the mirror, and you know thyself and nothing is in excess, you have a balance. You can create anything that you want. And all of this actually goes all the way back to the Emerald Tablet, where the law of action and what you create mentally is what manifests on this physical plane. So, if you would like a reading from me at any time, I do both the tarot and the traditional astrology. And if you would like to read more on this pamphlet and see more of the charts and the graphs and the images and the Witches Timepiece, please visit my site at afsanadely.com. That's AFSANAYDELY.com. And contact me anytime via my Facebook page as well at Ariana, A-R-I-A-N-A, Clausen Velez. You can find me anytime. I'm available for you. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this virtual workshop. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Have a fantastic day, and I hope you had a safe and wonderful 4th of July. Blessed be. Bye-bye.